Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ronnie Cowan, please.
Chair, in July 2021, you produced a report when the header is the investigation into complaints about the adequacy of DWP's communication of changes to state pension age, and you said in that you found that the maladministration led to a delay in DWP writing directly to women about changes to their state pension age. You also say DWP did not appear to have adequately investigated or responded to the complaints it was considering. You said, we think maladministration in DWP's complaint handling caused complainants unnecessary stress and anxiety, and ICE, the independent case examiners, appears to have acted within the scope of its remit, which is set out in its contract with DWP. We note, however, our view that the contract meant ICE could not address complainants' key concern, that they did not have as much personal notice of changes to the state pension age as they should have. And well into the report, page 29, you say, DWP did not find failings and so did not uphold the complaints. Had it considered all the evidence it should have, it is possible it would have reached a different conclusion, which is all good stuff. But what does this report actually do, apart from lead on to a second report?
Shall I start? So when we started this significant investigation into changes to state pension age for women, we said that we would adopt a very different approach than our standard investigations, and that we would split it into stages because of the importance but also the scale of the investigation. So stage one of our report, which you mentioned, was the stage which looked at the communication of state pension age changes, and we did find failings in that the department could have and should have communicated a minimum of 28 months before it actually communicated with women personally to tell them about those changes. So that was stage one, but we always made clear that we would investigate this in three ways. So stage one was the communications. Stage two, we said we would look at changes to national insurance contributions, but also the complaint handling of both the department and of the independent examiner. We haven't actually finalised that stage of the report yet. We are just in the process of receiving and analysing the very extensive comments that we've had from the department and from the complainants that have brought the complaints to us. And then stage three is for the injustice that we have found, what is the remedy and what will we recommend to the department? Because of the time this is taking, we're evaluating many thousands of pages of evidence that have been supplied. What we've said is we will aim to move very quickly to the stage three remedy. We're hoping to do that as early as possible in the new year, so that we will then publish the entirety of our findings, including the recommendations that we will make to the department for the failings we've already found and any that we will find in stage two.
So when will report 2 be produced?
As I say, I'm hoping for early in the new year, the final report.
I thought that was stage three.
That's for stage two. We are finalising the response to the department and complainants' comments on the provisional views. So we are going through, as I say, very extensive comments and looking at how that will need to change the provisional views that are not yet public, but some individuals have had sight of. And we'll do that as soon as possible. I don't want to commit to doing that before Christmas because the views that we have been given are extensive and we want to make sure we take what people have said to us into account. But we're aiming to do that as soon as we possibly can, with a view to finalising the whole report as early as possible in the new year.
So is that stage three then?
We've brought stage three forward.
Right. So stage three is when we get the crux of the matter. Stage three is when you'll wrap up the whole thing and say, here's the recommendations.
That's right.
Which is just like early next year. Forgive me, but any idea when that will be? First 3 months?
I'm hoping it will be within the first 3 months, yes.
In that, will you be, or you can recommend compensation?
What we can't do, because the courts have been very clear, is that we cannot recommend that women will be able to go back to having a pension age of 60
No.
and the differential. The courts are really clear on that.
About compensation for those.
We can recommend compensation for the maladministration. First of all, we have found maladministration in communication. We are finalising the second stage. There may or may not be maladministration in that stage, and we can make recommendations for compensation based on the maladministration.
I'm hearing you right. You can say it's the maladministration, here's some compensation. But on the back of that, the next stage of that would say to those women, you've missed out on these thousands of pounds worth of pension over the years. Is it your job then to say we recommend you pay this?
No. No, the law is the law. Parliament made changes to pension legislation to say that the pension age would change, and they did that over a sort of extended period. And the courts have been very clear that that is the decision of Parliament. Parliament decided to change the pension age. So there's nothing that we can do that would say or recommend to the department that the pension age should be changed. What we can say is that by not notifying women when you should have done, they had a lost opportunity to make different plans to prepare for that retirement.
So
and
when it comes to recommending compensation for maladministration, do you have a sliding scale akin to your severity of injustice, which would say on level 6 would go over £10,000? And I note that on the level 1s there's no compensation. On the level 2s, which are not taken forward, you can get up to £450, but that's not happening. Up to level 6 is 10,000 plus. Does such a thing exist for maladministration?
If you read the scale, we have given indications within the severity of injustice scale about where maladministration sits. Level 6, which is the £10,000 that you quoted, are generally for issues such as death or serious harm.
Saying, is there a similar scale for this type of process? I'm not expecting you to use that particular scale for
that scale is the one that we will be considering for this process too.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. John McDonnell.
I think where the confusion might be is when you reported before, just to quote, you said at the next stage you'd consider the impact the injustice had. And I think you've clarified a bit more this morning. So I think what people were expecting in the second stage report was that assessment by you of that impact that then could be translated into a compensation if recommended. What you're saying now, I take it, is that early in the new year, which in most people's views I think would be in the first 3 months, you will bring together a report that actually does assess the impact and then suggests, if possible, a remedy related to the scale you've got.
That's exactly right. So we'll bring the first stage, the second stage for complaint handling, the injustice, and then stage 3, the remedy, bring them all together. You
can understand the scale of interest that there is and concern that there is amongst members of Parliament. You've seen that from the early day motions. I don't think there's an MP without a constituent hasn't been affected. The concern that people have is because of the age of many of our constituents. Some of them have already passed away and others may not be here to actually receive any form of redress if we're delayed beyond the next quarter of next year.
I do understand that, and I can assure you that we are working as quickly as we can to bring this to a conclusion. The scale of the evidence that we've had to examine has been extensive, and we want to make sure that when we produce the report, everybody can be completely confident in the findings.
Thanks.
So you said you indicated maladministration was already on that table. Where is it on the table? What level?
It's through all of the levels. Maladministration itself generally goes up to level 4, and when you go into level 5, then you go into more serious harms.
So level 4 would be the maximum that you would expect for maladministration?
We haven't made judgment yet. We want to take all the factors into account, and then we will make a recommendation.
So that's normally maladministration, is that? But you are also taking into those wider losses that people might have made for not being able to have adjusted their plans.
That is part of the maladministration consideration. It's about lost opportunity to consider plans.
Fantastic. And so, so it was meant to be published by the end of this year. That has slipped then by a few months.
When you say it's meant to be published?
In your annual report, you said that the next stages would be published by late 2022.
Yes.
So it's clearly already late 2022. It's not published. It's going to be slipped by a few months. Is there a particular reason for that slippage, or is it just that the issues have become more complex?
There was quite a long delay with getting all of the evidence back from the Department for Works and Pensions, and so we had to then take all of that very extensive evidence into account. We're still working really hard. If we can come to this second stage this side of Christmas within this calendar year, we will do that. We're doing everything we can to do that, but I don't want to give a guarantee at this stage because of the amount of comments we've received on stage 2.
You've been very good explaining that to us here in the committee. Is that something you had communicated beforehand to both the complainants, but because this is of a wider political interest nature or wider public interest nature, I wondered, have you expressed that slight change of timescales on your website, and would you consider doing so that people who are following this can feel that they know where it is, because the deadline has now been effectively missed?
Well, the deadline hasn't yet been missed. We do explain to all of the complainants that have complaints with us. We have an ongoing dialogue with them. We're speaking to many of those individuals regularly, but we don't want to commit to a specific date because we don't want to raise expectations and then miss it. But we're trying to do everything we can to deliver this report before the second stage of this report, before the end of this calendar year. I'm very happy to update the website to say that.
I mean, just the statements that you've made here, I think would be great on the website, because I just think it brings people along on that journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Just very briefly from Beth and then from John, if we may.
Just very quickly, I reiterate the urgency